You're listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. I started this podcast to learn what makes people resilient after challenging events and how they've used those series of events as a catalyst for change in their life. You'll hear stories of resiliency and strength, so get ready, sit back, and be prepared to be inspired. Today, my guest is Dr. Shelley Astrof. She's a doctor of meditation and a peace pioneer with extensive training in education with a Master's of Education. She is the author of the Knower Curriculum, Timeless Tales, and co-author of The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing Techniques, contributing the chapter Simple Meditation. With 4 decades in association with a meditation master in the Himalayas of India, she offers a unique perspective on meditation. Her goal is to help people get grounded in self-awareness and connect with their inner guidance and sense of well-being, the knower of who they really are. Shelley also goes more into detail about what got her into meditation and what she's doing with children, because I was very curious to hear about teaching children meditation. Thank you, Shelley, for coming on my podcast, Catalyst for Change, Stories of Resiliency. I'm so happy to be speaking to you about your path and what's made you resilient. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. And it's really, really lovely to be here. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Um, I was thinking about something that happened to me through meditation and resiliency. It was sort of like a moment where I realized that the biggest bully in my life was my own mind. And I had been meditating for some time and had difficulty with my family because they didn't appreciate the path in life that I had decided to take. And I remember I was sitting and meditating and I was watching my mind. And now I was all by myself, all alone, and I was remembering the everything that had been going on with my family, and my mind was agreeing with them. It was as if I I was my own worst enemy. And I remember at one moment, I just opened my eyes and I realized that everybody could say things and have their own opinions, but I was not recognizing my own path and what I had chosen and what I had fought for. And when I realized that, and inside myself, I was able to stand up for myself, even to myself. Everything changed at that moment in my life, because then when I would see them, I had already developed a strength in me that they felt. The sense of respect began after that. But before that, I actually didn't have it for myself. And that's what I realized in meditation.
So you sound like you were doubting yourself when you started on this journey to meditation and mindfulness and your spiritual path. And you really had to bring it back to who is the core of what the core of who you are really is as Shelley, it sounds
Yeah.
like. So you were able to come back to that path, even though people
Yes.
doubted you.
What happened was I was influenced by their doubt
Yeah.
because I was doing what I believed in, but they were so strong and powerful in my mind that I couldn't fight them.
Yeah.
And when I would sit down, I believed them. And then I realized that actually, even while they weren't in my presence to give me all their information and all their mind and all their reasons why they thought I should live my life the way they wanted to, then I realized I was doing exactly what I wanted. They weren't even in front of me. And it was a big, like, aha moment.
What type of life did they want for you?
Um, well, I was an elementary school teacher when I first came in contact with meditation. It was like the mid 1970s. And I remember my husband came home. He was in graduate school and he said that he saw a sign on the university wall and it said, "Improve your marks, learn to meditate." I found that fascinating. Now, in like 1975, meditation was really not very well known, and it certainly wasn't known as any kind of pedagogical technique.
Yeah.
And I was working in the inner city, and I asked my principal, who was very forward thinking, if I could try meditation with the children. And I just told him what I thought. Um, and he said, "Go ahead." So we had a school psychologist, and I enlisted him uh, to kind of perform it with me 3 days a week. We noticed changes in the children in that they were much more settled and they began to be much more focused on those days that we meditated.
Oh, wow.
And the most interesting thing was that, the children are all tested at the end of the year by the school board.
Mm.
And my class, which in the inner city, they weren't ever expected to reach the standard of most other schools, my class absolutely reached the standard.
Wow.
And I remember joking with my principal, and I said, I think meditation made those kids smarter.
Yeah, they were able to focus more, it sounds like.
They were.
And
And
how,
their interest was a little more piqued
okay.
because of their focus.
And how did you go about teaching them meditation? And how old were these kids?
I was teaching grade 2, so they were 7.
Okay,
They were
7 years old.
7-year-olds. And we started off, it was really like a quiet time. And sometimes I'd have them sit. We'd sort of turn the lights down and just sit quietly. Sometimes we'd do like a clench and release. Sometimes if they were tired, they could lie down. But mostly they kind of liked the idea of sitting, and I would guide them in through something to watch their mind and watch their thoughts. And they're kind of became very relaxed. And I do remember that first year of doing it, when the children would open their eyes, they weren't really ready to like do a subject like mathematics or French or
Mm,
any kind of thing. So I remember what I ended up doing was penmanship,
okay.
because it focused their mind and they got to write, but they didn't have to, like, they were waiting for everything to sort of come back, like their mind and everything to come back. And that class had the most beautiful penmanship.
Oh, neat.
And so that was how I started. And in all the places that I taught, I always had meditation or a structured quiet time with the
Okay.
children. And when I went on to graduate school, I did my master's in education in curriculum development. I always stressed either meditation or a structured quiet time, if however you wanted to call it. And even for these teachers that I was teaching, because it did create more of a focus for your mind.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So it sounds like it
Yeah.
really worked out well. And you were kind of you were a pioneer because you were doing this in the 1970s when
Yes,
meditation wasn't really heard of, especially in schools, or it wasn't something that people, knew much
exactly.
about and how to teach and how to integrate that into the classroom.
I was making it up as I went along in a certain way, but it was working. It was always working.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so, and you mentioned, I saw on your website that you worked with child actors as well. Can you tell me more about what you did with child actors and how you helped them keep focused and taught them different things?
Yes, I was living in Montreal, and during that time there were a lot of film companies that would come to Montreal, and often they had children who were actors, and part of their contract was that they would have a tutor on set.
Okay.
So I was very fortunate through McGill. I was hired to take care of the children and do their lessons with them. And of course, their teachers would have sent all their materials with them. But it was great because I would not only do their lessons, but they actually did meditation in their own way. They would close their eyes and concentrate. So it didn't matter what we called it. I actually did it with those kids as well. So it always was with me. The minute I discovered it, I actually never let it go.
Yeah, because it sounds like it gave you good results for the children in
Absolutely.
second grade, and also for those child actors. They were able to do meditation in a different way because they were able to close their eyes and focus maybe on their lines or what they were going to be acting. Do you have any tips for educators that are thinking about teaching their children, or parents that are thinking about teaching their children meditation, and what age do they start?
I always say that you're never too young to start, that
Okay.
children can start very early. I have these little meditations on my website, and I call them smile meditations. And they're with this little character that I have. And they're 30 seconds long. Basically, they all begin by close your eyes and put a smile on your face. And then I'll say, and then you can watch your breath, or you can repeat a mantra like pure, free, forever, or something like that, or watch your mind. And then I always end with, and know that the one who's watching is your own self, the knower. And the thing about starting with close your eyes and put a smile on your face is, in that moment, your whole, like your back goes straight, your smile comes on, and you're ready to even have like 30 seconds or a minute for a child. That can be a big deal, to
Yeah.
just focus with a smile. And the thing that I've always stressed is that meditation should be that happy place. It should be your most happy place, because in that place, nobody can reach you. You're completely protected. You can be your own self, completely relaxing into who you really are for how long you're there. And so associating that with that sense of happiness will carry a child through their whole life. It can
Yeah.
help them.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is so neat. And now, do you use any type of poses with the children that you work with?
You mean like
Like
exercises?
exercises in
Yes.
coordination with the meditation, or is that something separate?
I would use the poses, the yoga poses, I would use that for aligning their energy.
Mm,
And then they would have once their energy is kind of more focused,
okay.
then they can meditate, because I always have them meditate after, and always just touch base with meditation,
Oh, neat.
especially for children, even for adults. You just touch base with it, and it
So
keeps you very centered, and it actually makes you very happy.
neat. So you do like yoga poses to align the energy, and then they meditate, it sounds
Yes,
like, and that works the
yes,
best.
absolutely, yes. Focuses them when they're in their body.
So they get all that energy out, and their wiggles or whatever little kids have going on. And
That's right.
yeah, that's really good. Get out those wiggles before you meditate.
Yeah,
And
and then meditate just for little bits, especially children. Just
yeah,
little bites and bits. It's all fine.
yeah. So keeping it short, like 30 seconds is great. And then maybe a couple poses beforehand to get them in that
Yeah,
zone.
and then they'll sit longer if they want to, but they always should go with how they feel inside.
Okay.
Nobody should tell them, because you don't know what's going on inside.
Yeah,
They
that's
they
true.
have to feel it until they're ready to come out. Very, very personal.
And don't
You
force them to meditate or do yoga. Just if they want, if that's introduce it and if it's something they want to continue with, keep
if
introducing that.
if they know that it's their happiest place, they're going to come to you for it.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I like that. Now, you also are a storyteller and a writer of children's books. Can you tell me how you use storytelling in your work and more about your books that you write for children?
Absolutely. I wrote my book, The Knower Curriculum, which, which is kind of, I'd say it was my love of education and my love of meditation that came together in a single book. The stories that I have in the book are all very, very insightful stories that I heard in the Himalayas of India by my teacher. And mostly they're stories that are, are relevant for today. They're stories about how do you deal with criticism? That might be the theme of the story.
Oh, good.
And how one of the stories is about how you can be right in what you're thinking, but it doesn't mean that others have to be wrong.
Oh, good. That is so important, those lessons to teach children,
Yes.
especially at a young age.
So these would be the themes of the story. There's one about just remaining alert, because if you don't stay alert, the monkey can come along and eat your whole loaf of bread.
I saw that one. That one was really cute. The bears have their loaf of bread and then the monkey comes along and yeah, I like that's
And
really
tricks
cute.
them.
Yeah, and tricks them into eating the bread instead of them. And
Yeah.
now on your website you mentioned Vedant philosophy. Can you tell me more
Yes.
about what that is?
Yes. Vedanta is it's a philosophy from the very ancient books of the Vedas. I use the knower as, instead of using the Sanskrit words,
Mm,
because it would be called Brahm or Chaitan or Atma or Turiya. So to use it in English, it's the one that knows, the one inside you that knows, and the one inside you that's always there. In order to, as if, unfold the knower from within you, because it's always there, what you have to do is you have to differentiate your mind, which is always changing, from your knower, which is unchanging. This is kind of the basis of the philosophy. So if you, I'll just give you an example of the mind is, it's an instrument, and it's like a camera. So your camera, like on your phone, it can take pictures, it can take little videos.
hmm
But the thing about the mind is, and the camera is that it can't know beyond itself. The camera can't know the one who's taking the picture. It can't know the photographer
Because it's a tool. Is that correct?
because it's a tool. And the mind, in the same way, is also a tool. The one who's behind the mind is your real self, which we'll call the knower. Because if the mind is just left on its own, it will always go according to your habit
hmm
or your desires. It's just habitual. But
Yeah.
if you want to expand your vision, then if you recognize that inside you is something that is can point in a direction, that's the knower. Like if you think about when you were a child and then you watch yourself grow up, you went to school and high school and you became an adult and all kinds of experiences happen. Now, if somebody shows you a picture of you when you were 2, 3 years old, 5 years old, even 10 years old, and you look at that picture and you know that that's you, there's no doubt that that's you, but everything about you has changed. Your body isn't the same anymore.
Yeah.
That's completely different and completely changed. Your mind certainly isn't the same anymore. Your interests aren't the same. Your circumstances aren't the same. Everything about you has changed. But what is it that knows that that's you or that was you? And
Yeah.
that inside you throughout, from that day to this, is the real you that's always there and it's always watching.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So thinking of that really made sense to me when you said the camera is a tool of the, the person or the mind. We use that, we take
Yeah,
the pictures. And then the mind is the tool of that knower, that knowing self. I really like
exactly.
that way of describing it.
So what happens is when you meditate and you focus on watching the one who is, you let the mind settle down. And the reason that you close your eyes is so that you don't have, the mind gets all its input from the senses. And when you close your eyes, at least you have that first sense, like you're not seeing. So that starts to quiet down, and then everything inside starts to quiet down. And as that happens, if you can focus on who's watching, it's as if when you close your eyes and your senses settle down. Now you do have to know they're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. They're still there.
They're still there. Their functioning is just a little quiet. But what
Mm.
happens is the real you inside begins to be revealed. It's as if that's what's waking up to you. And that knower, we'll give it the name knower, its nature is delight and intelligence and peace. Because you look at a baby who's just born, and there's something so amazing about it. And it certainly has no intellect happening. It can't walk.
Yeah.
there's but it's so close to the knower, and as life comes at it and the mind develops and the body develops, the coverings come. So when you stay in touch with the knower, especially with children, and you keep that open, so they always have that place to go to. So when you meditate, even for 5-10 minutes on the knower, what happens is your mind, which is always receiving influence from the senses and your friends and family and your situations that are in front of it, because the mind, that's how it operates, is through input.
Mm.
When it receives input from its own knower, it then becomes to have that influence of peace and calm and intelligence. So it's
Oh.
still the same type of instrument, but you're just giving it that kind of influence. And as a result, what happens is your vision, instead of your mind having a perspective, your vision starts to expand and expand to be the whole.
Okay, very, very neat. I like the way that you put that. It's very understandable. I think coming from somebody who, I for myself, I know I've tried to meditate. It's always a little challenging to me, but I love to teach my own child about meditation. And so now you mentioned the Knower Club. So how does this fit into what you're doing with the Knower Club?
All right. Well, we have on my website, in the book, I have different meditations. I have different breathing exercises, the pranayama, and different dealing with sound and meaning, which is mantra, and the hatha yoga exercises, and the activities and the stories. So what I've done is I've created little audio and animated videos of all of the topics. So if you wanted to learn a pose, there's a little character who can teach it to you. And they're very simple. Most of the videos run about 2 minutes.
So that way kids can get an introduction into what it is to do these yoga poses, and then
Absolutely.
also move on to meditation. And then if they learn it while they're young, it's something hopefully that will stick with them.
Yes. And
And
even if it doesn't, in a dark hour when they're older, they're going to
mhm.
remember that that was their happy place. It's a seed that you plant, and one day it sprouts.
Oh, I really like that. Yeah. I think it could be beneficial for all kids and for even parents who are pretty busy and dealing
Yeah,
with everything that's going on in the world these days.
yeah.
That's
And all
really,
the stories are read, and all the little pictures from the coloring book, the storybook. I have all them in the stories, like little videos. And then I even have a section for how adults can teach. So all that is in the little Knower Club. And in fact, some of my friends tell me that they do the exercises themselves.
yeah. Oh, that's neat. And so people can find out more about the Knower Club and those videos and yoga poses and books on your website. And
Absolutely.
I'll post your website in the show notes just so people have it. And it looks like a really good thing for parents, educators, or anybody that wants to learn just simple ways to meditate and add that to your daily routine. And that's the knower.ca, it sounds like, is your website.
Correct.
Knower,
Correct.
N-O-K-N,
Knowers, Knower.
yep,
No,
knower.ca. Okay, wonderful. Well, can you think of anything we may not have touched on that you want to make sure to mention?
well, oh, I also teach meditation classes for adults. I had some free classes that will be posted. They're on my Facebook page called the Knower Curriculum.
Okay.
And I also I'm presently doing a 6-week meditation workshop, which I'll repeat again in the new year.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
that's going into a lot of the theory and practice of meditation, going into the philosophy and all variants of it. Yeah.
And you have some videos on your Facebook page, I see, that are kind of teasers or that kind of give them a little bit more information about what you're doing. So that's really good to check out. And I'll make sure to have your Facebook page also in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much, Shelley. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. And it was lovely talking to you. I enjoyed it very much.
You've been listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. Join us next week for another story of resiliency. And please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and feel free to leave me a comment or email me at catalystforchange20@gmail.com, or on Facebook, we have a page at Catalyst for Change Resiliency.